Hi everybody, and welcome to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. On this video, there's stories from relationship advice with an update, malicious compliance, and today I effed up. So if you want to get started with the stories, then just use the timestamps below the video. Now I'd like to thank all of you that support me by either being a Twitch subscriber, a YouTube member, or supporting me during the live streams. Thank you so much, it really means a lot to me. And if this is the first time watching one of my videos and you like it, then consider subscribing to the channel and joining us on Discord. Now let's get started with today's stories. This post is from the subreddit Relationship Advice, and it's from user throwaway635IW526. I got pregnant at 16. My parents disowned me and tried taking custody of my daughter. After 10 years, my father was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and both want to reconnect with me and get to know their grandchild. I need help on how to handle this. At 16, I slept with my good friend Jared. The condom broke and my daughter was created. My parents, who were great up until this point, didn't like it and wanted me to terminate the pregnancy. I couldn't bring myself to do it. I wanted to keep the baby. Of course, my parents told me to pack up my stuff and leave the house and their lives. So I did. I went to my friend's house and his parents took me in. They weren't thrilled, but they said that we all had to help as a new family member was in the making. During that time, my friend and I started to develop feelings for each other. I had my daughter, and about 2 months later, Jared's brother came back into their lives. He was a recovering heroin addict. Since we had the baby, my mother-in-law told him he could not stay with us. Eventually, they let him stay more, and he was spending nights until he had a relapse and stole a bunch of stuff. My parents got wind of that. Then they dug up a bunch of stuff and found out that my mother-in-law also fought addiction after an accident she had 15 years ago that left her addicted to pain meds. So they called CPS on us and a whole ass investigation was opened. It was a dark time. I thought they were going to take my baby. In the end, they didn't find anything substantial. But them calling CPS on me transformed into a tradition over the years. As it was a small town, every mistake I made got back to my parents. I was half an hour late to pick up due to my job, CPS charges because neglect. I was out after 10 p.m. with my toddler. This happened twice because we went to family gatherings, CPS. On a Christmas, loads of people stayed at Jared's house because it was a big family. CPS because strange men were there. They eventually stopped it because they were fined for calling them on me unnecessarily. If they had done it more, I think it could have been an offense. The last call was 5 years ago. Eventually, Jared and I married when we were 23 and we are quite happy. We worked retail jobs and studied. It took us longer than average to graduate, but we did. With a lot of help of his parents, Jared is now an engineer and I work as a graphic designer. We are able to afford a big flat and finally moved out of his parents' house. Our lives look normal now. Anyway, a week ago I get a call from my mother who told me my father was diagnosed with terminal cancer and that his ultimate wish is to see me and my daughter again. I don't really know what to do because while they didn't have to take care of me while I was pregnant, I wish they had at least supported me. And while I get that they were panicking because they thought I was going to be an unfit mother, they made my life hell for 5 years. Willoughby, first of all, congratulations. You were put through hell. Your parents did not make it easy for you to be a young mother. The good thing you had Jared and his family, but not without problems. And now you guys are both graduated, you've got jobs, you've got an apartment, and your family unit is together. And I have to say, it is quite admirable how you overcome all of that and got to where you were. So congratulations for that. Now, regarding your parents and everything they put you through, it is only up to you if you decide to forgive them or not. You don't owe them anything. And the fact that your dad is sick, while of course it is sad for him to be in that situation, it doesn't give them a wipe the slate clean kind of card, or they can just sweep everything under the rug and now they get to have a relationship with you and your daughter. No. Maybe when she's old enough, if she decides she wants to try to have a relationship with them, she can go seek that out. But up to this point, it is still your decision. If I were in your shoes, before they get to be in my daughter's life, I would make sure where they are today, because you haven't spoken to them in 5 years. A lot could have happened. But from past experience and all, I wouldn't let them near my daughter just yet. What about you guys? What would you do in OP's situation? Let me know what your suggestion would be in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what kind of advice OP got there. Mama's Bear 83 said, I had the same situation happen to me. I decided to go and see without bringing my child first. After 6 visits, I realized nothing changed. I was glad I didn't introduce my son to their crazy. Hamster with a Kazoo says, they need to reconcile with you before you even consider letting them see your daughter. And whether or not that's even possible is entirely up to you. What you described them as is controlling, manipulative, and selfish. Until you have determined that is no longer the case, I would keep my daughter far away from them. JKK says, only you can decide what to do. I'm just popping in to remind you that you don't have to forgive them and that you don't owe them reconciliation. If you want to reconnect, then do so. But it's important to remember, you're not a bad person if you decide not to do so. Well, community comments pretty much agree that it's up to OP to decide whether or not to let her parents back into her life, but that she should kind of like vet them to see if they're still this kind of crazy or not, and then make a decision. Which I think is the right approach because it helps keep them both, OP and her child, safe. Now, OP has given us an update, so let's move on with that to see what happened after this. Hey, it's me. I wanted to update you on what happened. After some thought, I decided to first meet my parents alone. I wanted to make a decision based on their remorse and development as human beings. And they sadly didn't really change. When I agreed to meet, I also told them it would be without my kid. I don't know why, but they thought they were going to meet her. They had bought presents and all. They were very disappointed, to say it lightly, when I showed up without her. They made no big deal to hide it, but we talked. They failed to take any real responsibility for their actions. Every apology began with, "We are sorry if you." When confronted about the CPS calls, they say they were doing what was best for my daughter. I got really mad, but tried not to snap. They brought up every mistake I made as a young mother, and that they thought I was far too young and irresponsible to have a kid. That my daughter only turned up good because of luck. After they said that, I laid down money for my meal, stood up and said, "Well, nothing has changed. You are still the heartless people that threw me out years ago and made my life hell for 5 years. You will never meet her. She is happy and she has loving grandparents." They started to freak out, saying that I couldn't withhold their grandchild from them. I just said that you lay in the bed that you make. I left and haven't talked to them since. Mails or letters from them are thrown out on the spot. I will eventually explain to my daughter what happened to me and my parents, and I will give her the chance to meet them when she is older, but for now I don't have to deal with their BS. OP's edit. Guys, thank you for your concerns, but I am a non-US. Grandparents' rights are not a thing where I come from. Edit 2. I think some of you are confused. I am not asking about advice of whether or not I should give in to my parents' request. That's what my last post was about. It's not unwillingness to reflect, it's a set decision. Also, my daughter is in therapy due to her being traumatized by all that lovely CPS visits that were caused by my parents. So I in fact know my child is happy and healthy, mentally as well as physically. Well, OP, I think you made the right call. If your parents showed no remorse for what they've done and no acknowledgement that what they did was wrong from, what they put you through, then yeah, you and your daughter are better off without them. Sucks for them, but you don't want that toxicity in your life, so totally agree with your decision. I have to say also, I love how you shut down the community from telling you to reconsider. You made that decision, that's final, you were just letting people know what had happened. So yeah, I thought that was great. Anyways, it is now time for us to move on to the next post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user HansCaboose92. So, we're not allowed to throw snowballs in the winter, huh? This is a story that my father is always fond of repeating, describing events that happened when he was a teen. First, a little bit of setup. Living in Norway, especially back in the day, the winters are long, cold, and of course, filled with snow. This means that most schools or other clubs and activities, etc., that deal with kids or teens have very strict rules about what one is allowed to do or not do when it comes to said snow. Especially when it comes to snowballs, those rules tend to be very strict. Since there is a lot of snow, temperature changes, etc., there's always a lot of gravel and such used to fight the buildup of ice, etc., which can potentially make the snowballs quite dangerous projectiles, so the rules make sense, to some extent at least. My dad had become intimately familiar with those rules, as he had been caught red-handed throwing snowballs on several occasions. This had caused him to receive an ultimatum. No more breaking the rules or you will be suspended. To make sure that he knew what the rules were, he was told to study them carefully. Important to the story. Setup done. One summer, mid-June, there's a massive hailstorm. So big in fact that by the time it's over, the landscape looks like it's winter, with piles of sloppy icy snow everywhere. Going outside, the adults made sure to remind the kids about the snow rules. They made a point to stop my father in the door telling him, "You know the rules, we will keep an eye on you and expect you to follow them to the letter." Cue malicious compliance. You see, the rules were very specific. They specifically stated what you were and weren't allowed to do with snow in the winter. Every single rule started with, "In the winter, you are not allowed to ellipsis." As my father had been forced to study the rules extensively, he knew perfectly well what the rules stated and went outside, gathering up a piece of snow and hurling it at one of his friends. This, of course, sparked a massive snowball fight, after which he was led up to the principal's office. The principal says, "I assume you know why you're here," and my father replies, "Not really, no. I don't see how I did anything wrong." The principal then says, "I thought we made things very clear when it comes to what would happen if you break the rules one more time." He pulls out the book of rules and flipping to the page and says, "Mind reading to me this rule?" pointing to the rule about snowballs. My father reads, "During the winter you are not allowed to throw snowballs," and a whole bunch of texts specifying what you were not allowed to throw at and where you were not allowed to throw, etc. And the principal says, "So, now that you've had a refresher, what do you have to say for yourself?" And my father replies, "What time of year is it?" And the principal is mute. My father got off without any further argument, even getting a commendation from his teacher about his clever way to think outside of the box. The rules were changed to be a lot less specific about the time of year a few weeks later, though it weren't very likely to ever happen again, as hailstorms during the summer is a very rare occurrence in this part of the country at least. Well, OP, your dad sounds like he was a clever kid. Yeah, he knew the rules alright, and he followed them to the letter. They specifically stated what you could do in the winter, not the summer, so good on him. And also, it's really cool that the teacher gave him a commendation. You know, instead of punishing him further for being a smartass or something like that, they recognized how clever he was and let him off the hook. That's quite cool. So now, we move on to the next post. This post is from the subreddit Today I F'd Up, and it's by user MillerAC38. Today I F'd up because I didn't pee before waiting in line at an amusement park. I drank a lot of water today because I walk a lot at work. Me, female 21, my boyfriend and his brother drove up to go to the amusement park after we got off. It was a 50-minute drive and I drank even more water on the way up. And we didn't stop to use the bathroom because the park closed soon, so we wanted to get as many rides in as possible. So we get in line at the entrance of the park and security takes over. I can see the bathroom from where I'm standing and I can hear flushing. My boyfriend is jokingly making water noises, which doesn't help, and then it happens. I bent over because I dropped my mask and it started as a trickle. I'm thinking, oh my god, is this really happening? This is really happening! But I couldn't stop. It's like a water balloon popping and just explodes. I peed everywhere. It was clear because I drank so much water. It was like a waterfall and I couldn't stop it. I don't think I've ever peed so much in my life. I'm so embarrassed, I'm crying at this point, and I run away toward the parking lot. There were probably 50 people in the line who saw, including children. As I'm running away, my boyfriend came to comfort me because I'm hysterical and running as fast as I can. His brother stayed behind and I heard him saying, "She's pregnant and her water broke." Literally the biggest clutch I've ever effing seen. The security people are calling on their radio and asking if we need an ambulance after running after me because they thought I was going into labor. His brother told him everything was fine and that we would drive to the hospital. Groups of people are confused, but a group of girls claps and yells, "Congratulations!" because I peed my effing pants as an adult. Literally, the worst day of my life. I've never been more embarrassed, but at least I can laugh about it now. Oof, OP, that must have sucked. But at least lesson learned, right? Always use the bathroom before a long drive. And also, props to your boyfriend's brother for having your back. I mean, it could have gone worse if an actual ambulance was called, but good thing it wasn't and they handled it properly. But he had your back all the way. Nice. And it's that time that we've reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. I certainly did reading them to you. So if you did, then go ahead and give the video a like. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and become a member of our Discord community that just keeps growing and it is fantastic. And like I said in the beginning of the video, all of the relevant links are in the video description below, so be sure to check them out. And finally, I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to watch this video. It really does mean a lot to me that you guys enjoy this content, so thank you once again. And having said all that, I will see you guys in the next video.